the Puma Deviate Nitro 3 versus the Asics Novablast 4. Which of these two is the better daily trainer? Let's get into it. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're subscribed to watching content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of updates. Without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes, somewhere up here where we can see them. And as you can tell, or if you've watched this channel for a long time, one of these shoes I've had longer than the other. And both from their respective brands are, I would say, highly acclaimed overall. So let's just make that clear. Both shoes, extremely good from both brands. Both can be interchangeable in your daily workouts with some minor changes between both and maybe some very specific differences to consider for your daily workouts, right? So again, things that are similar, their weights are about 9.2, 9.3 ounces in my size approximately. They are both high stack shoes. In this particular case, we have a 39 heel in this shoe, 41 in this one, making this one technically illegal for elite athletes to race in. Doesn't matter, it's a daily trainer, who cares about that part? And then in their forefoots respectively, I believe it's what is this, like 29, and then this would be a 33, giving it that high stack with an 8mm offset. So it's got that high heel, whereas this one's got that 10mm offset, but the stack is not as high, so it's a little bit more aggressive on that side, right? This is where we get into some of the crazy things, right? Of course, with the Deviate Nitro 3, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but if this is your first time seeing anything about this shoe, we have two pieces of foam with a carbon plate sandwiched in between. This is the Nitro foam that is associated with Puma's brand. And yeah, basically you can see just kind of where it cuts off in the shoe. And that power plate, carbon plate foam, is the main difference between both of these products. The advantages and disadvantages, again, with the carbon plate is that the shoe will have a higher response and a much more aggressive run and sort of speed if you put it into the shoe. So if you drive into the ground more, you're going to get that response as long as your running form is good for this shoe. So again, with a 10mm offset, you are considering the fact that the shoe is a higher heel, and as a result, the shoe sort of rolls and supinates to overcompensate for any sort of overpronation you may have had as a runner. And therefore, the piece to consider there is that it has a little bit more of that handicap if your running form isn't quite there. But again, with the carbon plate, as I said, it wants you to strike more in this mid to forefoot range of the shoe, and as a result, the high heel effect sort of forces your foot into that area of the shoe. Also with that, the disadvantage here is that the shoe ends up being a little bit stiffer as a result because the carbon plate doesn't allow for as much wiggle room in the shoe. Granted, the foam in its early stages, not at this stage with me, it was a little bit softer. It had a little bit more roll, and it was a little bit more forgiving on that side. But that being said, it's not as comfortable, as cushiony as I would say the Novablast 4. So this is where we get into the foams associated here. I believe this is the Flight Foam Plus that's associated with Asics, I guess like daily training models as of the year of 2024. This is just one piece going all the way across the shoe, and there's no carbon plate associated with this shoe. So that's a thing to consider here, but as a result, there's a couple of things to really consider here. Like the bottom of the shoe is pretty massive in comparison to the Deviate Nitro 3. Just a huge striking points all the way across the shoe, whether you're a heel striker, midfoot, forefoot. There's plenty of room, so it's very hard, I think, in my opinion, to roll your ankles in this shoe. I think it's designed to be just that comfortable daily trainer with a lot of cushion, a lot of, I guess, that plush feel that's associated with having a comfortable ride. But also the shoe seems to have a fast patch in it as well. What I mean by that is that this foam compound that Asics is running in this particular daily trainer is really good, just all the way across the board. It's soft. It does feel like a marshmallow on my feet. It's not like so soft where you don't get a nice response out of it. It's just right. And in addition to the rubber kind of playing into conserving that foam's, I'd say, life across the shoe, this is just a good combination shoe for its price, which I think I bought this one for $120 versus this one, which was I think 180, I guess 60 bucks plus carbon plate plus, you know, brand and all that. The shoe is cheaper, no carbon plate, but I'm extremely happy with, I would say, the turnover, the speed, and the comfort that's affiliated with this particular shoe as of right now. So again, I didn't get it to 350 plus miles like I do with the Deviate Nitro 3. When I get to that point, I'll know how the foam's, I would say, lifespan lasts after 100. But as I'm approaching to about 50, 60 miles in this particular one, this is a really great response for a shoe without a carbon plate. It's kind of exceeding my expectations, and yeah, there's just comfort all the way across the board with this one that I was not expecting, but just based on the design of the shoe, I should have figured was sort of something that was put in play here, right? So, with all that being said, if you had to choose between both daily trainers in terms of comfort, I would lean more for the Novablast 4. That's the comfort shoe, I would say. If I was aiming for speed, I would look more at the Deviate Nitro 3 with the carbon plate combination. If I was looking more for like the all-around effects, and I would say like, you know, your tempo, threshold, recovery, easy, like tempo, threshold stuff is pretty good in this shoe. Again, carbon plate is just the factor to consider here. It's a little bit more stiff, resembles more of, if you have like a race day shoe, this would resemble more of those race day effects. Whereas if you want those easy recovery kind of things, I would lean for the Novablast 4. But if you don't have the budget for both and you absolutely have to stick with one, it's a really tough call. Again, I would put that sort of back to you, right? Are you more of like an Asics person? Are you more of a Puma person? Do you not care necessarily about brand? Do you have any sort of pre-existing injuries that may make your ankle or Achilles sort of stiff? If so, I would lean away from the carbon plate and move into something softer. Do you have more of a neutral foot that is a little bit stronger over the years? Maybe you want to go into an Asics without the carbon plate and have more of that like foot to ground response. These are some of the more micro things I would consider with both daily trainers, but again, this is a really tough one for me to decide on. Like, if I really had to swing it a certain direction, I would so far lean it more towards the Asics, just because, again, the carbon plate is something I would rather associate with like my race day to tempo threshold style speed shoe. I would not want it necessarily in a daily trainer. Just out of philosophy, that's kind of where I would want it. Whereas, like, again, no carbon plate kind of gives me that no pressure. You know, you can go easy in the shoe. It's not going to be too stiff. It'll give you some wiggle room in the foot to sort of work out any sort of issues or things kind of going on there. So that's sort of where my mind is going with the daily trainers there. But again, I may have to revisit this opinion, but I think so far I'm leaning slightly towards the Asics. Now, if this was the Deviate Nitro 2 that we were discussing, whole different discussion. We would have to break those down a little bit more. But again, right now, just based on the way I was experiencing both, I like the Asics just a little bit more. That's all. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I revisit this and we'll think about it in the future. But again, if you agree or disagree with the opinion, let me know in the comments below. If I missed anything or have any questions about the shoes, let me know. I read the comments. I'll try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. So I guess that's where we'll leave it. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.